The Senate will come to order, and the hour of convening has arrived on this final day of our legislative session. I ask that all unauthorized persons exit the chamber at this time, and it is my honor to recognize the still getting dressed over there, distinguished Rules Chairman, who gets a little slower this time of year, catches up on his sleep. Recognize the Senator from the 53rd.
Mr. President, let me first say it's been an honor serving the members of this body and you in your leadership capacity. Want to thank you for, hey, act like you're listening to me at least. I wanted to thank you for your leadership here in the Senate.
It's hard. It's hard. I apologize.
I understand. A couple of things in history. The Eiffel Tower opens today in 1889. Construction of RMS Titanic begins in 1909. Kind of gives me a sinking feeling. Anyway, that was kind of funny. Today, the senator from the 7th told me it's his favorite day. It's National Crayon Day, and he has learned to crayon in the lines. And it's National Farm Workers Day. Mr. President, the journal's been read to found to be correct.
Once again, you've done an amazing job of updating us on the world events. Appreciate your leadership. Is there objection to dispensing with the reading of the journal? The chair hears none, and the reading of the journal is dispensed with. Is there objection to the confirmation of the journal? The chair hears none, and the journal is confirmed. Mr. Secretary, first reading of House bills and resolutions. Senate bills and resolutions.
Senate Bill 321 by Senator Jones of the 10th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend an act providing for the compensation of certain county officers and officials of DeKalb County.
State and local government.
This completes the order, Mr. President.
Mr. Secretary, will you please read the additional resolutions?
Senate Resolution 324 by Senator Mullis of the 53rd, a resolution creating the City of Ringgold Charter Study Committee and for other purposes.
Rules.
Senate Resolution 326 by Senators Rahman of the 5th and others, a resolution celebrating the anniversary of the signing of Lahore Resolution on March 23rd, 1940, and recognizing March 23rd, 2021.
Rules.
Senate Resolution 329 by Senators Halpern of the 39th and others, a resolution creating the Senate Study Committee on Excellence, Innovation, and
Rules.
Senate Resolution 331 by Senators Halpern of the 39th and others, a resolution recognizing Renee Montgomery and for other purposes. This completes the order, Mr. President.
Is there objection to adoption of the resolution? The chair hears none, and the resolution is adopted. Ms. Secretary, will you please read reports of standing committees?
Mr. President, the Senate Committee on State and Local Government has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation. House Bill 771, due pass by substitute, respectfully submitted Senator Anderson of the 24th, Chairman. This completes the order, Mr. President. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Assignments has had under consideration the appointment made by the Governor that requires Senate confirmation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation. That the appointment of Ms. Sandra Heath Taylor of Trobe County to the Board of Juvenile Justice be confirmed. Respectfully submitted, Honorary Jeff Duncan, Chairman. This completes the order, Mr. President.
Ms. Secretary, will you please read bills and resolutions for the second time?
Senate Resolution 300 by Senators Harrell of the 40th and others. Senate University Fees Study Committee, create. This completes the order, Mr. President.
It's now time for morning roll call. It is now time for morning roll call. Are there any motions to excuse? Chair recognizes the senator from the 44th.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I ask for unanimous consent to excuse the senator from the 43rd.
Without objection, the senator from the 43rd is excused. The chair recognizes the majority leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that we suspend morning roll call.
The majority leader has moved that we suspend the morning roll call. Is there objection? The chair hears none, and the morning roll call is suspended. I want to take a moment to thank some very, very important people that have helped all of us do our job over the last 40 legislative days. And those are the folks from Georgia Tech that have done such an incredibly good job of setting up our surveillance testing program related to COVID. You know, my first experience was a tour I took of their program and campus as they were trying to come back online for classes back in the early fall, and I was just overwhelmed with the level of sophistication, but also using the saliva-based system, which I think we've all appreciated, using the saliva-based system as opposed to some sort of other testing procedure that's a little more invasive. They've done an amazing job of getting us prepared for our work environment, keeping us safe and allowing us to identify before we had any sort of massive outbreaks. Very, very grateful for their time and effort, whether it be the testing protocols, their friendly voices and reminders that were in there, their quick and timely follow-ups with us. It's just done an amazing job, and certainly there's a lot of IT that's behind the scenes on all of that. So I want to really personally thank Mike Shannon, Julianne Williamson, and Alex Ortiz for their incredible work of pulling this program off and really putting an example out there. Also want to thank Calder Childs and Morgan McCombs for their constant friendly reminders and communication with Georgia Tech. So if we would, could we please give everybody at the Georgia Tech surveillance testing program a warm thank you. We're going to stand at ease for just 1 minute while we wait for some folks that we just got word. I think it's raining really hard. They're trying to make it over from the LOB. So we're just going to wait 1 minute, a couple of minutes, if we could just pass word that to head this direction. All right, the Senate will come back to order. We could come in and take our seats. The Senate will come back to order. For what purpose does the senator from the 53rd rise?
Mr. President, to maintain a fine tradition here in this great body, I would like to present you the ball to throw out the first pitch of the sine die for 2021.
Is that a question? The gentleman from the don't throw it. The gentleman from the 53rd can approach the rostrum. All right, well, that was fun. One of these years, I'm not going to throw a strike. I'm going to take out somebody down this side. Could be the dean of the Senate over here. Although you look pretty quick, you could probably... I'd feel better if everybody had a glove down this side. All right, we will come back to order now. It's time for a morning devotional. After having some fun, it's time for a morning devotional. I'd ask that all senators take your seats, come back to order and cease all audible conversations. And I would ask that our doorkeepers secure the chamber at this time. I'd like to recognize our pro tem to lead us in our Pledge of Allegiance and to introduce to us our chaplain of the day.
Thank you, Mr. President. Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it is working, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And the Georgia flag. I pledge allegiance to the Georgia flag, the principles for which it stands, wisdom, justice, and moderation. I heard somebody say encourage. I distinctly heard that. That's good. That's good. Ladies and gentlemen, as the President of the Senate pointed out, he'd like to see everybody on that right-hand side with a glove. I was thinking they needed a batting helmet, actually. but the catcher tells me he pitched a strike, so that's all good. It gives me a great deal of pleasure to introduce to some of you for the first time, if you're new to this chamber, the Honorable Hardy Davis Jr., and to many of you to reintroduce a former colleague. Hardy served in the state Senate, he served in the House of Representatives, and he currently serves in Augusta as Augusta's 84th mayor. He graduated from Hetzibah High School in Richmond County. He attended Georgia Tech, where he got a degree in electrical engineering. He got his doctorate in ministry from Christian Life School of Theology. He founded and has been the past president of the African American Mayors Association. He serves as a director at large for the Georgia Municipal Association. and he has distinguished himself in public service throughout his life. He's here today with his beautiful wife, Yvette, and at home, their son, Benjamin. And I would ask you to give Hardy your attention, and I'm sure that he will share with you some inspiring thoughts. He's a great friend to many people in this chamber and to the state of Georgia. The Honorable Hardy Davis.
Thank you so much to my good friend, President Pro Tem of the Senate, to my very good friend, and I think it's certainly appropriate for me to say this, go Jackets, to the President of the Senate. That's for all of the Bulldogs out there. But I am excited to be here once again, to stand in this great place, to be amongst so many friends. Delighted to be here and to bring you greetings from the great city of Augusta, Georgia, and from the good folks at Abundant Life Church in our city. My assignment is real simple this morning, and it's to share just a few words of encouragement. I want to draw our attention, if you will, to the book of Micah. Micah chapter 6, very important, but oftentimes overlooked passage of scripture of what the Lord says to us. In Micah chapter 6, God, in his unique way of explaining things to us, brings a stinging charge against the people of Israel in the first 7 verses. And then he, in that unique way of exchanging as only God can, he brings us to a question in verse 8. And scripture reminds us, and I read from the Good News translation, this simple question. No, the Lord has told us what is good. What he requires of us is this. It is to do what is just, to show constant love, and to live in humble fellowship with our God. And so for just a few moments, to the members of this august body, as you come this morning and throughout the course of this day to deliberate and do the business of the people of this great state, I charge you with these thoughts. There's a post entitled, Do God's Will, Not His Work, by Bethany Jenkins. And she writes, in other words, as you think about this passage of scripture, we can work, we can make sandwiches, we can even balance budgets. And in your case today, you can deliberate and debate much legislation that will drive our state's not only present, but our future as well. But the challenge for us is simply this, and that is to do what the Lord requires of us. And I give you these 3 thoughts. The Lord calls us to obey and to follow him, what he has revealed to us in his word, and to trust and to keep his commandments. How can we do that? To do justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with our God. It is simply to follow the commands of the Lord Jesus Christ. And in doing so, I urge us today, in what will be a long day, not only a long day, but a day that you are here to think about almost 11 million Georgians, to remember these words. Let's do the right thing and do it the right way today. Let's love mercy by being merciful to others before us. Even in the midst of spirited debate, remind yourself, let me be merciful in all of my efforts. And finally, let's walk humbly with our God, following his lead in life's situations and life circumstances. Because what you do matters. It matters to every single Georgian. And it matters to the good folks of Augusta, Georgia. And so on today, let us do justly. Let us be constant in our love, our affection, our actions, and our attitudes towards one another, because you are here and you matter. And let us always remember to walk humbly before our God. That is what is required of us today and every day forward. Would you stand and pray with me? Gracious God, it is you who we seek after. It is your wisdom, your guidance, and your divine direction that shall lead us not only today, but in the days ahead. And Father God, as we stand in your presence, we are in awe of your majesty and of your loving kindness. May we be examples of what it is to do justly, to be constant in our love as we walk humbly before you and our fellow man. This we pray. Amen.
Senate will come back to order. Are there any unanimous consents? The chair sees none. Does Bruce? Does any senator wish to rise on a point of personal privilege? Chair recognizes the distinguished rules chairman for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just want to share a little gratitude. First off, I enjoy serving with my brother and sister in here in the state Senate. Yeah, I enjoy when we're working together on issues to find solutions. I would like to thank the leadership of the Democrat leadership, Senator from the 55th leading it, and the Senator of the 30th leading the Republican leadership. When we're working together on issues, it really makes a difference. And when we were working on sports wagering, we kind of came together, a lot of us, to find solutions for higher education purposes, and I'm talking about the lottery. We worked on needs-based or gap funding and regular funding for higher education to help those children or those teenagers who would never have an opportunity to go to college or technical schools without the effort of this body. And I am so grateful, Mr. President, and I'm grateful for your leadership as well in allowing us to be flexible and look at our ideas to find ways to help the people of Georgia. But I am disappointed in across the hall. I'm disappointed mainly in the Democrat leadership. I've met with the minority leaders a couple of times, asked to speak to the caucus about sports wagering, and it has fallen on deaf ears. But my real frustration is they are leaving tens of millions of dollars on the table for needs-based gap funding for people who really need it. And the leadership in this body would never do that. Either Democrat or Republican or just all of us, we see the need to help people foster a quality education by funding it, by giving an opportunity. Now, I don't play the lottery. I play the lottery to fund our education. That's the only reason. And I'm grateful. I know the same happens here with y'all, and I only play it when it's worth hundreds of millions of dollars because I want to make sure I'm funding the best I can for those who need it. Thank you. But I am disappointed in the House, the Democrat, for not working with us to find solutions for higher education. I hope things change today. You know, in these days, miracles can happen. And, of course, they can fall like the Titanic dead in the water. So, Mr. President, again, I thank each and every one of my colleagues here. I love all of y'all. Well, I love most of you. Well, I love some of you. Well, at least a couple of you. Now, I'm very grateful. I'm proud to be a member of this body and work with each and every one of you. And if I can ever be of service to you, not just here, but anywhere, please let me know. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the well with a heavy heart and a lot of gratitude for these wonderful people in this body.
I am overwhelmed at the number of people that waited to day 40 to have a point of personal privilege, but we will work our way through this list knowing that we've got a tremendous number of important measures still left to debate. The chair recognizes the senator from the 19th for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the Senate. Many of you may know Ms. Jackie Azar. She's one of our doorkeepers who is absent right now. She's been with us through this session and for many years. Miss Jackie's the first one to greet you and say hello every morning. She also prays over each one of our desks while we're here and when we're not here. But Miss Jackie's facing some personal battles herself right now. She had some bad news come her way this week, and she's got some other tests that are going to come through later. But I was just asking, I know she's probably watching right now. If you guys don't mind just giving her a little clap and a shout and let her know we're thinking about her. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the will.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 42nd for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning, colleagues. Happy Sunday night. The recent mass shootings in Georgia and Colorado yet again shone a spotlight on the human cost of America's easy access to guns. In no other country do mass shootings, on top of everyday gun violence, occur on a daily basis. But today I want to talk about one aspect of that: the bloodshed that happens when unsecured deadly weapons fall into the hands of children. I am the author of SB 146, which would allow for the owner of a gun to be charged with a misdemeanor if a child gains access to a gun that the owner failed to secure. SB 146 100% mirrors the law that is on the books in Texas. Every day, children gain access to weapons, most often weapons in their own home. And every day, children and adults alike are injured or even killed because of it. Children as young as 2, as old as 17, have shot their siblings, their friends, their parents, neighbors, classmates, and thousands of times themselves. Unfortunately, we here in Georgia have the 3rd highest rate in the country of fatal firearm accidents involving children. In 2019, 6-year-old Millie Drew Kelly of Paulding County was killed when her 4-year-old brother found a gun in their family's car console. In 2016, 3-year-old Holston Cole, also of Paulding County, accidentally killed himself after pulling a gun out of a backpack. These are just 2 recent examples. 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds don't understand the danger of guns. They're inquisitive, and it is the responsibility of the adults around them to keep them safe. Sadly, we also can't talk about kids and guns without talking about suicide. In my district, we have had several horrible tragedies in the last few months where young teens and preteens have died by suicide. Preteens, 15-year-olds, 12-year-olds, 11-year-olds, taking their own lives before they even had a chance to get started on life. Suicides among young people are increasing at a shocking rate. Nearly 3,000 such children die by firearm suicide each year, and the rate has increased 42% over the last decade, with a 114% increase in the last decade. A 2019 study by the American Journal of Preventive Medicine concluded that the proportion of homes in a state that contain firearms is the best predictor of a state's youth suicide rate. Many parents believe that the kids don't know where the guns are. They think their kids don't handle the guns. And unfortunately, that is not true. And adopting a negligent firearm storage law like many other states would not impede any Second Amendment rights. We talk a lot about the rights of law-abiding, responsible gun owners. And this bill would be the epitome of responsible gun ownership. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the will.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 8th for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll try to be quick. 6 years ago, I was on the farm in the blueberry field and got a call from my wife, and she was hysterical. She said something was wrong with my son. And so I, got there as fast as I could, and I got there, and she was on the side of the pool with my son. He was on his back, and his eyes were rolled back in his head, and he had white foam coming out of his mouth, and he was unconscious. We didn't know it at the time, but lightning had struck the pump house and blew out all the wiring and the fuse boxes and went through the wiring going to the pool and blew the lights out in the pool. And when he jumped into the pool, he got electrocuted. And so, we, the EMTs came and the helicopter came and they carried him down to Shands. And we really saw God's hand in that looking back. The helicopter nurse had on Avengers lanyards, and of course JR loved the Avengers. His when he woke up for just a minute at Shands, and he knew who I was, but he didn't know who his mother was, and he went back to sleep, I would call it, and kind of like a coma, and he wouldn't wake up. But they transferred him to Wolfson's, and his pediatrician at Wolfson's name was Rustin Buffington. And of course, my full name is Rustin. I've never met another Rustin in my life. And anyway, JR made a full recovery. We got him back home. We were home about 10 minutes and got a call from the nurse who was on the helicopter. And he said, I want to, I normally don't call about patients, but JR being a young person, I wanted to call and see how he was doing. And so anyway, I kind of shared with him a little bit about, some of the things that we saw God's hand in it. And he said, well, I've got one better for you. My dad died in 1998, but he was a field medic in the 101st Division Airborne in Vietnam. And when he wasn't out on missions, he would be at the tent hospital and get the patients off of the helicopters and soldiers. And so this nurse said, I've got one better for you. He said, when the helicopter landed at Shands, one of the first nurses that was there that helped us get JR out of the helicopter, his name was John Goodman. And my daddy's name was John Goodman, and my son's name is John Rustin Goodman. And today, God worked a miracle in his life, and today is his 17th birthday. And so I'm just wanted to, share that with y'all. And in light of everything that we've been through with our pandemic that we've been going through the last year, and I know for a fact if it was not for the first responders, I wouldn't have my son. And, to all our healthcare workers and first responders who have led us throughout this pandemic, thank you. You are all indeed great Americans. It's my honor to serve you all as well. Mr. President, I yield the will.
Chair recognizes the minority leader for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the Senate. So here we are, sign it die. And I have to say that I am so proud of some of what we have accomplished together this session. Some of what we have done, we can call progress. We've done away with citizens' arrests, along with a history of racism that was being used to serve bad intentions. We finally passed parental leave for state employees and teachers who are new parents. It's a start towards giving much needed support to families, and I hope we can do more. We've expanded protections to stalking victims and sexual assault crimes victims. We have restored some funding to departments like health and education that were hard hit by budget cuts in the COVID pandemic. Another area where I hope we can do more. We have been diligent to protect our members and our families, safe from illness, and managed to carry on throughout the session, doing the people's work under these difficult circumstances. I want to thank the Lieutenant Governor for his willingness to listen to my concerns and act on them. The Senate leadership, the minority leadership, and I have to give a shout out to our Rules Chair that at all times was willing to work with me on different issues. And I want to thank the Capitol staff for their efforts to keep us safe and allow us to continue our work. But it's hard not to feel that with its excellent progress, that we are not taking one step forward and two steps back. I feel the good work we have done here is overshadowed in many people's minds by the backward steps. It doesn't have to be that way. The give and take of this chamber is starting to feel to many of us and to the people back home as no give and all take. In a matter of days, we saw bills passed that would limit voting rights and expand gun rights. This is wrong. This is the wrong direction for our state, and the people at home are watching. You may have noticed, as I have, that the citizens of our state are watching what happens here more closely than ever. Everyone is watching because the people of Georgia have found their voice can make a difference. They are watching, and they will remember when they try to drop a ballot off at a drop box and find it gone. They will remember the next time they see lives lost to gun violence on the news. And when they lose their job and don't have health insurance, they will remember that we failed to expand Medicaid one more time. That's why it doesn't do any good to try and hold early morning hearings or sign bills behind closed doors. When Democrats are in the well and Republicans leave the room, the public see that I see it too, and it makes me wonder what you must think of the people I represent. One more second. As we go forward, today and in future sessions, we must include as many voices as we can. Our priority should be as inclusive as we can be. It can't be about keeping people out, whether they be in this building or from larger systems. Georgians from one district in this state are not more important than in another district. Our policy decisions should be about supporting and helping as many Georgians as we possibly can. The less we listen to Georgians' voices inside these walls, the louder they have grown outside. We should serve ourselves well to listen to them. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the well.
Thank you, Senator. Chair recognizes the senator from the 14th for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. Every year I bring before you just a short poem. Today, the day has arrived where session comes to a close. Tons of bills passed and others met the proverbial no. We have many new senators that made Georgia so proud, some very articulate and clever, and at least one witty and loud. When we return back to our districts, to our family and friends, I pray you protection and safety, and all our colleagues to continue to mend. My hope is we unite as a state and come together as one. So much to celebrate is why we have won. With that, Mr. President, I wish a happy birthday to my friend from the 16th in just a few days. Thank you.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 9th for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning, everyone. We remember those who come into our lives and shape and impact our lives. Mine was my Uncle Major Bledsoe. I didn't grow up with my dad, but he was the closest thing that I had. He was a real Renaissance man. He taught me science and art and music. I am the geeky sci-fi woman I am today because of him, because he taught me these things. He exposed me to these things at a young age. He was a scientist himself. He was born in 1956, and, you know, for a black man growing up in that era, you know, to be what he was, you know, the artist and the, you know, he was a photographer. I still have one of his photos in my home. He died in 2010, suddenly at the age of 56. He was survived by my Aunt Mary Bledsoe. Sweetest, and during all this time he would spend with my brother and I, teaching us these things, my Aunt Mary was always there. The sweetest, kindest soul I ever met. And my uncle loved her dearly. He wrote a letter telling her he would always be with her upon death. And they were married for 30 years. She died suddenly last night at the age of 64. I'm sorry. I normally am not a crier either. They're survived by 3 children. With his death in 2010, we're 10 years, almost 10 years later, and she's passed suddenly. We have no answers why. She was the monarch of her family, holding everybody together after his death, and just being the strong force for her 3 survive, you know, for her 3 children. Life is short, you guys. We never know how long we have. Every day we're granted is a gift. Remember those you love. Let's be kind to one another. Let's be measured and wise. Remember the impact we make on others with all our decisions we make today. And Mr. President, I ask for a moment of silence for my Aunt Mary Bledsoe.
Senators asked us to rise and offer up a moment of silence. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 23rd for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. Extend my condolences to the senator from the Nix family. As we conclude Women's History Month, I'd like to recognize a remarkable woman who was a pioneer in health care in southeast Georgia. Edith Clare Nix was born in the early 1900s in Gwinnett County. Her early childhood was idyllic for the era. She was the only daughter of a family of means. Her father was an attorney, a solicitor, a member of the Georgia House of Representatives. Things became more challenging when her mother, Pauline, died when she was only 10. But with the support of her father and her stepmother, Edith Clare Nix enjoyed the privilege of a quality education. First, Edith pursued teaching as a profession, but her passion turned to health care. Graduating from Grady Hospital School of Nursing in the late 1930s, Edith chose to accept a public health nursing position in underserved southeast Georgia. The county that she went to had no doctor, no hospital, no clinic, no health care of any kind for over 15,000 rural residents. The closest facilities were over 50 miles away. The roads were dirt. The farmers used mules to eke out a subsistence living. Rural electrification was just coming to the area. There were no jobs, no money. It was the Depression. She encountered polio and dysentery, malnutrition, lack of prenatal care, low birth weight, high infant mortality. You get the picture. Edith adopted the community. She was the healthcare provider. She trained midwives. She delivered babies. She organized polio vaccines. She administered childhood vaccinations in schools. She sutured cuts, she set bones, and she loved to administer penicillin. You see, Edith never met a shot she didn't like. And if you had a sniffle, you got a shot. She did it all alone. The community adopted her as well. Everyone in the county just called her Nix. She was just Nix. Nix had an impact on that rural southeast community, and she had a dramatic impact on me as well. You see, Edith Clare Nix was Edith Clare Nix Burns. Nix was my mother. I'd tag along when she made house calls. I'd play nearby when she trained midwives. I'd help with polio vaccinations on Sunday afternoon after church. Can anyone remember the little sugar cubes with the salt vaccine? Again, Nix loved shots. And every time I had a sniffle, I got a shot in the bottom. I remember one time in my boyhood getting chicken pox, and I got to stay home from school without getting a shot. It was like winning the lottery. Regrettably, when I was 10 years old, Nix died. But in those 10 short years, she instilled in me the values that guide me today. Important things like education and goals and perseverance and hard work and service. Among those things, the most important thing is the respect and service to others. I'd like to recognize Edith Clare Nix Burns, registered nurse, Scriven County, Georgia, from 1942 to 1959. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the well.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 2nd for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. This morning I rise to recognize the students at Savannah Country Day School, class of 2028. They are 5th graders this year, and last year as 4th graders, they began a project to build a life-size papier-mâché right whale calf. But because of the pandemic, they had to put this project on hold in order to quarantine this time last year. When they returned to in-person learning, they picked up where they left off and was able to finish this magnificent whale which hangs from the ceiling of their science lab. As part of their STEM project, they wrote persuasive letters to me and many other legislators, which is bound together in this accordion book. It is quite a sight to see, and I will have it on display at my desk and later on in my office to see this display of letters from young 5th graders talking about how they feel about this environment, how they feel about animals who don't have a voice, how they want to make a difference for this world, how they are encouraged to make a difference for society. I applaud these students today and their advocacy to do something they care about, the protection of the right whale. They have learned to be a voice for creatures that have no voice. I am proud of these students. I'm proud of them because they're making a peaceful movement for a peaceful statement for social change, for the protection of our environment, for the protection of those who don't have a voice. I will let them know that their voice will be heard and they will be remembered. I pledge to all of them that all of us in the Georgia State Senate will continue to keep the right whale in mind as we draft legislation today and next year. So I say thank you to the 5th graders, to the students of Savannah Country Day School, class of 2028. Thank you for being involved. Thank you for your willingness to make a difference. So the class and young people everywhere, stay involved because peaceful movements begin somewhere, and it begins in your heart. Thank you. I yield the will.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 29th for a point of personal privilege.
Colleagues, as we put a bow on the last day of Women's History Month, I want to recognize a lady from my district, born in 1942 to Wiley Thurston and Nellie Cobb. Their daughter Elizabeth, along with their 7 other children, lived in Harris County. Elizabeth, for 2 years, slept in her mother and father's bedroom because she was, as they said, the runt of the litter. And so they had to keep her close because she was so tiny and fragile. She continued to be that way throughout her life physically, but emotionally and through discipline, she created a woman who not only became a prolific writer, who had a knack for writing short stories and incredible poetry, published in newspapers and other small publications throughout West Georgia. She grew up primarily her adult life raising her 3 children by herself. She spent her night times working 3rd shift at manufacturing plants, either with Union Carbide or with Goody Products. And when she was not in Mexico for a short period of time training workers down there, she also was able to keep her checking account afloat by working 20 hours a week at a local fast food restaurant to supplement the income as she raised her 3 children. In 2007, she was diagnosed with colon cancer right around Easter. And Easter was special because every Easter, all of her grandchildren, all 12 to 14 grandchildren, would be at her house coloring Easter eggs, building baskets, and carrying them to the widows and shut-ins throughout Harris County. And March 28th, this past Sunday, would have been her 79th birthday. But she's no longer here, but her 2 daughters and her son continue to carry on her legacy. And so I want to say happy birthday to my mother. Thank you.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 44th for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. This has been a very interesting legislative session under the Gold Dome. A flurry of voter suppression bills were introduced, and because people protested and spoke out against them, and legislators spoke out against provisions in committees, some of these egregious parts of the bill were stricken. One of the most egregious actions was in a compensation bill in a committee where senators tried to be judge and jury, a bill brought by a Black female legislator. I go on record today to stand with Black Lives Matter. I stand with Representative Park Cannon, a colleague in the General Assembly, a young Black legislator. And then I stand with Black ministers today who are here to stand with legislators and are here at the Capitol today to call for freedom, justice, and equality. Some senators in here have a good heart and are good people, but some are not. We have to face the fact that a lot of people are racist, and you can't change them. Let me remind you, if you are tired of hearing about racism, imagine how tired some people are of experiencing it. Mr. President, I yield the well.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 27th for a point of personal privilege.
Good morning, Mr. President, members of this chamber. You know, Lord willing, each one of us will be back here next year. But one of us will not, and I want to take a minute and honor somebody that will not be with us next year. And this person is a friend of mine, a friend of all of ours in the chamber. His name is Mike Dudgeon. And Mike was trained well in the House. Before he was trained in the House, he was trained in the Forsyth County School Board. And I can say personally, Mike has been a friend, a mentor, a colleague to me, and I have seen so many members of this chamber embrace Mike as he has served the Lieutenant Governor's office and done so quite well. You know, when Mike walks into a room, pretty much without exception, he walks in the room with the highest intellect and highest IQ of anybody in the room. That's a God-given trait. There's nothing he really can take credit for there. But he also walks into the room with grace and dignity and humility and honor that is a choice. And he has challenged me personally, watching the way that he has lived his life, the way he has loved his family, the way that he has disagreed with those in an agreeable way has been something that has been very, very compelling. And the private sector is calling Mike back, and so we will lose him at least partially in this chamber. But Mike, I just want to say personally to you, thank you. Thank you for the way you've served our state. Thank you for the way you've served our community. And thank you for the way you've served each one of us. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the well.
You know you've done something when you surprise Mike Dudgeon on a detail. Senator, I couldn't echo those comments any more. Mike Dudgeon has been an incredibly good friend of mine going back before I even was in elected office. We served together in the House. And it's individuals like that make us all better. It doesn't mean we agree on every issue, but it makes us all better. And when we stick to facts and figures as we deliberate this process, we remove ourselves from partisan corners and just live in the facts and figures. I believe that's what an overwhelming majority of our districts and this state wants us to do on the big issues. And so thank you, Mike, from the bottom of my heart and from my family's heart. And echo your statements. And when I ask my kids who's the smartest person Dad knows, they all say Mike Dudgeon. So thank you very much for that. They do not say the senator from the 53rd. Chair recognizes the senator from the 48th to introduce the doctor of the day.
Sorry, I'm pinch hitting on this one. Today, I'm pleased to introduce our doctor of the day, who's Ms. Delphine Head. She's a family practice primary care physician with the Southeast Permanente Medical Group. She chose family medicine because she enjoys developing relationships with her patients and treating generations of families. Dr. Head received her medical degree from the University of South Alabama College of Medicine and completed her internship and residency through the Morehouse School of Medicine. In addition to her clinical work, Dr. Head served in a number of leadership positions, including her current role as the lead of government relations for the West area of Southeast Permanente Medical Group, and her past role as president and chair of the board of the Atlanta Medical Association. Thank you so much, Dr. Head, for your service. Mr. President, I yield the well.
All right, one more announcement for a good friend of this. Where's Bob at? Where's the door? Mr. Doorkeeper, could you come through here for a minute? I just want to make sure everybody in this chamber is well aware of one, thank you for all the doorkeepers and the great work that you continue to do. But I would be remiss if I didn't let this august body know that today's your birthday. Happy birthday. And my note card, I don't think this is right, but this says that you turned 40 today. Thank you so much for what you guys all do. All right, you've got a consent calendar of privileged resolutions before you. Does any senator wish to remove a resolution from the consent calendar? Is there objection to adoption of the resolutions on the consent calendar? Is there objection to adoption of the resolutions on the consent calendar? The chair hears none, and the resolutions on the consent calendar are adopted. Are there any motions to withdraw and commit? The chair sees none. You have a consent calendar of local bills before you. Mr. Secretary, are there any objections filed to any bills on the local consent calendar?
Mr. President, there are 3 objections filed. There's an objection filed on House Bill 445, an objection filed on House Bill 680, and an objection filed on House Bill 771.
The objections have been filed on House Bill 445, House Bill 680, and House Bill 771. Those 3 will be removed from the local consent calendar as we vote on this first batch and will be voted independently. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the Committee on State? What purpose does the senator from the 18th rise?
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise to ask for unanimous consent to excuse the senator from the 32nd. Nope, she's back. My apologies.
No worries.
Thank you.
Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the Committee on State and Local Government, which is favorable to the passage of the bills on the local consent calendar? Chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. The questions on the passage of the bills on the local consent calendar. All those in favor will vote yea. Opposed, nay. The Secretary will unlock the machine. Have all senators voted? Mr. Secretary, please close the machine. On the passage of the bills, the yeas are 52, the nays are 0. The bills on the local consent calendar, having received the requisite constitutional majority, are therefore passed. All right, we'll take up each of the other local bills one by one. First, we'll take up House Bill 445. Mr. Secretary, can you please read the caption?
House Bill 445 by Representative Bruce of the 61st and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend an act to incorporate the city of South Fulton in Fulton County, Georgia, approved April 26, 2016, as amended so as to change the corporate boundaries of the municipality and for other purposes. The Senate Committee on State and Local Government recommends that this bill do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Anderson of the 24th Chairman. State and Local Governmental Operations offers the following substitute to House Bill 445, a bill to be entitled an act to amend an act to incorporate the city of South Fulton in Fulton County, Georgia, approved April 26, 2016, as amended so as to change the corporate boundaries of the municipality and for other purposes. This completes the order, Mr. President.
For what purpose does the senator from the 56th rise?
Mr. President, I'd ask unanimous consent that we table House Bill 445.
The senator from the 56th has asked for unanimous consent for House Bill 445 to be placed on the table. Is there objection? There is objection. All those in favor of placing House Bill 445 on the table, vote yea. Opposed, nay. The Secretary will unlock the machine. Have all senators voted? Have all senators voted? Mr. Secretary, is the hallway clear? Have all senators voted? Mr. Secretary, will you please close the machine? On the motion, the yeas are 47, the nays are 5, and House Bill 445 has been placed on the table. Move on to the next local bill, House Bill 680. Mr. Secretary, can you please read the caption of House Bill 680?
House Bill 680 by Representative Green of the 151st, a bill to be entitled an act to amend an act creating the Board of Commissioners of Stewart County, approved April 4th, 1996, as amended, particularly by an act approved April 4th, 1997, so as to revise provisions relating to purchases and bids and for other purposes. The Senate Committee on State and Local Government recommends that this bill do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Anderson of the 24th, Chairman. This completes the order, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes the senator for what purpose does the senator from the 12th rise?
Mr. President, I rise to move to recommit House Bill, 680 to SLOGO. Recommit to SLOGO.
Would the senator like to speak to that motion?
No, sir.
Senator from the 12th has asked that House Bill 680 be recommitted. Is there objection? The chair hears none, and the bill is recommitted to state and local government. We'll move on to the next bill, 771, House Bill 771. Mr. Secretary, can you please read the caption?
House Bill 771 by Representative Thomas of the 39th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend an act providing a new charter for the city of Austell, approved March 28, 1986, as amended so as to provide for the annexation of certain territory into the boundaries of the city and for other purposes. The Senate Committee on State and Local Government recommends that this bill do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Anderson of the 24th, Chairman. State and Local Government offers the following substitute to House Bill 771. A bill to be entitled an act to amend an act providing a new charter for the city of Austell, approved March 28, 1986, as amended, so as to provide for the annexation of certain territory in the boundaries of the city and for other purposes. This completes the order, Mr. President.
For what purpose does the senator from the 14th rise?
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent to place HB 771 on the table.
Senator from the 14th has asked for unanimous consent for House Bill 771 to be placed on the table. All those in favor vote yea, opposed nay. The Secretary will unlock the machine. Have all senators voted? Have all senators voted? Mr. Secretary, please close the machine. On the motion, the yeas are 53, the nays are 0, and the motion has carried, and House Bill 771 has been placed on the table. All right, we're going to move on now to take up a confirmation of an appointment by the governor. Chair recognizes the majority leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask unanimous consent that Senate Rule 3-3.1 be suspended to allow the Senate to consider confirmation of an appointment by the governor.
The majority leader has asked for unanimous consent to suspend the rules to allow the Senate to consider confirmation of the governor's appointment of Ms. Sandra Heath Taylor to the Board of Juvenile Justice. Is there objection? The chair hears none. Secretary will read a committee report.
Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Assignments has had under consideration the appointment made by the governor that requires Senate confirmation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation: that the appointment of Ms. Sandra Heath Taylor of Troup County to the Board of Juvenile Justice be confirmed. Respectfully submitted, Honorary Jeff Duncan, Chairman. This completes the order, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes the majority leader for a motion.
Mr. President, I move that the Senate confirm the governor's appointment of the Honorable Sandra Heath Taylor to the Georgia Board of Juvenile Justice.
Does the senator wish to speak to the motion? He waves. Would any senator wish to speak for or against the motion? The chair hears none. The majority leader has moved that the Senate confirm the governor's appointment of Ms. Sandra Heath Taylor to the Board of Juvenile Justice. All those in favor of the confirmation will vote yea. Opposed, nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. Have all senators voted? Have all senators voted? Ms. Secretary, please close the machine. On the confirmation of the governor's appointment, the yeas are 52, the nays are 1, and Ms. Sandra Heath Taylor is confirmed. All right, we're going to move on to agrees and disagrees. Chair recognizes the senator from the 14th for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate agree with House Bill 42.
Ms. Secretary, will you please read the caption?
Senate Bill 42 by Senators Mullis of the 53rd and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 20-14-33 of the OCGA relating to indicators of quality of learning in individual schools and school systems, comparison to state standards, rating schools and school systems, providing information and uniform definition of dropout and below grade level, and for other purposes. The House offers the following substitute to Senate Bill 42, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Title 20 of the OCGA relating to education so as to authorize home study students in grades 6 through 12 to participate in extracurricular and interscholastic activities in the student's resident public school system and for other purposes. This completes the order, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 14th to speak to his motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning, colleagues. Senate Bill 42 originally addressed including data and information regarding student discipline to be included in the annual DOA report as well as published electronically in each local school or school system. It's a great bill because it highlights transparency, but it's more importantly, it's serving as a vehicle for another piece of legislation that is not only important to our state, but dear to me. You see, I began this crusade known as the Tim Tebow Bill to allow homeschooler children access to extracurricular activities for many years, dating back to the late Rules Chairman, John Meadows. He and I worked closely as we co-sponsored that bill and engaged the Georgia High School Association on a few items, including this subject. The following year, I co-chaired a study committee that introduced me to a very strong advocate for the homeschool community. Her name is Karen Durnovich. For those new to our body, this legislation has many lessons to learn. First, perseverance and determination will ultimately prevail if you remain steadfast in your resolve and committed to the mission you believe in. Next, be willing to compromise as you try to unite people. Good Lord, we're so divided in our state right now over issues, it's sometimes hard to realize that some issues transcend many of the partisan boundaries that we exist. I don't mean to compromise your core principles, but listen to those that may have concerns and seek to address them as best you can. Negotiation is a part of our role as legislators, and rarely do we get everything in a bill we originally set out to pass. The old adage that we should never allow great to become the enemy or stumbling block for good. The public schools and Georgia High School Association had some very real concerns as we worked on this legislation over the past 5 or 6 years. But a shout out to Dr. Robin Hines from Georgia High School Association that committed to seek common ground with each of us as we eventually agreed on this piece of legislation. After all, ladies and gentlemen, we're in a relationship business. And without a relationship with fellow members on both sides of this aisle, things collapse. And sometimes they become personal. We have seen this as an unknown agency fails to see the importance, and the General Assembly is now trying to take action with a possible overseer in that being appointed. Another lesson to learn is understanding the importance of engaging those we seek to serve with the legislation. After hearing the story of Dexter Mosley and his unselfish desire to serve the homeschool community and those that did not have a male role model in their lives, I decided this year to rename the legislation the Dexter Mosley Act. It was in his honor, and it was initiated as Senate Bill 51 that this chamber passed with over 31 votes. We went to work trying to get it through the House, but we encountered tremendous headwinds, but we refused to give up. Karen and Chanel Mosley, the widow, positioned themselves in the hall near the house entry each and every day and began telling their story. Before long, the little flicker of hope became a flame, and many realized just how important this issue was. And frankly, they desired to make it a House bill. This brings me to the point that I must give credit where credit is due. Ladies and gentlemen, listen closely. Without the influence and political capital of our Lieutenant Governor, the President behind me, we never would be here today, letting our state, as well as many outside our state, know that the Senate led on this issue from day one. And today I'll be asking the Senate again lead, as we send this to the Governor, to immediately bring the public schools and homeschool communities together. A shout out to the senator from the 29th, who was a strong supporter with his family members as they testified. And a new senator from the 31st committed to work with me as we adopted the motto, failure is not an option. The senator from the 54th was gracious enough when we derailed a committee to work with us as we continue to seek vehicles to keep the ball in play. The senator from the 40th came to me early on and shared her desire to, even though it may cost her politically, to see this get passed. I commend you, Senator. Thank you for your support. And finally, our Rules Chairman, the Senator from the 53rd. Thank you for your efforts in this. Thank you for allowing me to address the body today. Finally, I'd like to recognize Cole Muzio for his steadfast presence and humility to absorb the pressure he received out in the aisles and from the chamber. He kept his eye on the prize as we kept the ball moving forward. Karen, wherever you are in this building, you're an absolute, unrelentless advocate for the kids in Georgia and the homeschool community. You're coachable, and even though some said, go home and trust the process, you kindly declined, and you remained vigilant. In closing, ladies and gentlemen, my dear friend, Chanel Mosley, the widow, you've seen her in the halls. Chanel, I know with Dexter was called home just over 2 years ago. It left a huge hole in your heart. A man that underwent a heart transplant and yet came back to serve the people and more. I am confident he is sitting with Jesus right now, looking down on you, and Dominic, and Diamond, and Dallas, and Dexter Jr., and Dylan, and Darren, and he's smiling. You must have made this man proud when he was alive, when he was here on earth. And that pride continues today as we dedicate this bill to him. Mr. President, I'll yield the well, and I appreciate your favorable consideration on this vote.
Thank you, Senator. Chair recognizes the senator from the 2nd to speak to the measure.
Thank you, Mr. President, members and colleagues. I urge caution as you vote on Senate Bill 42. I urge caution as I call around the state, principals around this great state, superintendents around this state, they resonate this word, this sentence right this. We cannot manage this logistically, allowing students who are not enrolled in our traditional public schools to enter. We have no way of identifying who are public school students versus who are homeschool students. This bill has been around for a number of years. We first called it the Tim Tebow bill, and we voted it down. Now it's back again under a new name. But what it does is it puts public educators, the superintendents and the principals at a disadvantage, trying to judge who should be allowed into public schools and who should not. They know who the students are that are enrolled, but they don't know the other people that's trying to get in. I think this bill still needs some work to be done. Although I applaud the work of homeschoolers, they do a magnificent job and they add to the education of all our children. But I urge caution in Senate Bill 42 in its current form. It still needs work. And I think that if we could come back next year and work on this bill, we can perfect it and serve the people of this great state. If there's no question, Mr. President, I yield the well.
You have no questions. Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the motion? The chair sees none. Senator from the 14th has moved that the Senate agree to the House substitute to Senate Bill 42. All those in favor vote yea, opposed nay. The Secretary will unlock the machine. For what purpose does the senator from the 14th rise?
Mr. President, isn't it true that the House passed this bill with only 18 dissenting votes?
I'm sure the gentleman knows of what he speaks. For what reason does the majority whip rise?
Isn't it also true that the sponsor of the bill had us at hello?
Certainly. He had the chair at hello. Have all senators voted? Have all senators voted? Mr. Secretary, please close the machine. On the passage of the motion, the yeas are 35, the nays are 18, and the Senate has agreed to the House substitute to Senate Bill 42. Chair recognizes the senator from the 17th for a motion.
Mr. President, I move that the Senate agree to the House substitute to Senate Bill 107.
Ms. Secretary, can you please read the caption?
Senate Bill 107 by Senator Strickland of the 17th and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 12 of Chapter 3 of Title 20 of the OCGA relating to post-secondary education grants for foster children and adopted children, so as to provide for the waiver of tuition and all fees, including mandatory rooming and board fees, for qualifying foster and adopted students by units of the University System of Georgia and the Technical College System of Georgia, and for other purposes. The House offers the following substitute to Senate Bill 107. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Title 20 of the OCGA relating to education so as to provide for in-state tuition at units of the University System of Georgia and the Technical College System of Georgia for youth who are from homeless situations and for other purposes. This completes the order, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 17th to speak to his motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Bill 107 that passed unanimously dealt with tuition waivers for foster kids in our state. The House made one change that you'll see on lines 32 through 63, lines 96 through 99, and 204 through 209. They defined what it means to be a homeless person in our state when it comes to residency. And so it's a definition that we now have in our code. So someone that is homeless in our state, based on the definition they put in here, will still qualify for in-state tuition. And I think they did it in a way that clearly defines what it means to be homeless and make sure there are protections built in, and make sure at the same time that we do actually help those people out who don't have a place to live in our state when it comes to going to college. I'll be happy to take any questions, Mr. President.
You don't appear to have any questions.
I ask for favorable consideration.
Any other senator wish to speak for or against the motion? The chair sees none. The senator from the 17th has moved that the Senate agree to the House substitute to Senate Bill 107. All those in favor vote yea, opposed nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. Have all senators voted? Have all senators voted? Ms. Secretary, please close the machine. On the passage of the motion, the yeas are 53, the nays are 0, and the Senate has agreed to the House substitute to Senate Bill 107. Great work. That is great work. Chair recognizes the senator from the 53rd, our distinguished rules chairman, for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate agree to the House substitute of Senate Bill 81.
Ms. Secretary, please read the caption.
Senate Bill 81 by Senators Mullis of the 53rd and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 20-4-37 of the OCGA relating to the official Office of College and Career Transitions and powers and duties so as to change the name of the Office of College and Career Transitions to the Office of College and Career Academies and for other purposes. The House offers the following substitute to Senate Bill 81. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Title 20 of the OCGA relating to education so as to extend automatic repeals of certain provisions regarding non-lapsing revenue of institutions in the university system of Georgia and the technical college system of Georgia, to provide for an annual reports regarding non-lapsing revenue and for other purposes. This completes the order, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 53rd to speak to his motion. For the freshmen, the rules provide for the opportunity for a senator to run to the well on the last 2 days.
Yes, sir. It's tradition.
Tradition.
Family tradition. It's Senate tradition. Thank you, Mr. President. I'm glad to be here. Such a great bill again. Of course, the original bill is that we change the name of the College Career and transition to the College Career Academy. But we're doing even a greater thing. We're adding Senator from the 46th bill, I think it was Senate Bill 109, to this bill, which carry forward the uncollectibles accounts and reauthorizations for the University of Georgia system and the Technical College system of Georgia. Carry forward means that it moves all or a portion of unexpended revenues beyond the fiscal year for which it was originally earned forward. And the carried forward would be for the tuitions up to 3% for University of Georgia system, 15% to the Technical College system of Georgia, indirect cost recovery, technical fees, and department sales and services. I'd be delighted to answer any questions, or I'll be glad to yield the well, Mr. President.
You have no questions, and I would
thank you for your vote.
The chair would encourage you not to sprint. You're a little out of breath when you're presenting. Any other senator wish to speak for or against the motion? The chair sees none. The senator from the 53rd has moved that the Senate agree to the House substitute to Senate Bill 81. All those in favor vote yea, opposed nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. Have all senators voted? Have all senators voted? Mr. Secretary, please close the machine. On the motion, the yeas are 50, the nays are 0, and the Senate has agreed to the House substitute to Senate Bill 81. Chair recognizes the senator from the 15th for a motion. I should have said the chair recognizes the dean of the Senate, and your ears would have poked up. For a motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate agree to the House substitute to Senate Bill 225.
Mr. Secretary, will you please read the caption?
Senate Bill 225 by Senators Harbison of the 15th and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 3 of Chapter 2 of Title 40 of the OCGA relating to prestige license plates and special plates for certain persons and vehicles so as to provide for a veteran's license plate to individuals who served in the armed forces for an ally of the United States during active military combat and for other purposes. The House offers the following substitute to Senate Bill 225. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 3 of Chapter 2 of Title 40 of the OCGA relating to prestige license plates and special license plates for certain persons and vehicles so as to provide for a veteran's license plate to individuals who served in the armed forces for an ally of the United States during active military combat and for other purposes. This completes the order, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes the Dean of the Senate to speak to his motion.
Thank you very much, Mr. President and members of the Senate. This is a simple bill, as they say, and seriously, this is a good bill for our military folks, specifically in this instance, our Korean allies who fought with us in various wars, including Korea and Vietnam. And what happened in the House, they did some just grammatical corrections and moved it forward and changed one word, I believe, from county to country to make it adequate and applicable to the allies that we serve with in combat. If there are no questions, Mr. President, I move approval. I yield the well.
You have no more questions, or you have no
Thank you.
questions. That's why you're the Dean of the Senate. You answer the questions with your floor presentation. Any other senator wish to speak for or against the motion? The chair sees none. Senator from the 15th has moved that the Senate agree to the House substitute to Senate Bill 225. All those in favor vote yea, opposed nay. The Secretary will unlock the machine. Have all senators voted? Have all senators voted? Ms. Secretary, please close the machine. On the motion, the yeas are 49, the nays are 0, and the Senate has agreed to the House substitute to Senate Bill 225. Take a moment to recognize former Senator Doug Stoner, who's with us here for a little while. Don't you miss day 40? Chair recognizes the senator from the 49th for a motion. He's in conference. Chair recognizes the pro tem. For a motion.
Mr. President, I move that the Senate agree to the House substitute of Senate Bill 117.
Ms. Secretary, will you please read the caption?
Senate Bill 117 by Senators Miller of the 49th and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 6 of Title 16, Article 1 of Chapter 10 of Title 17, Article 2 of Chapter 3 of Title 35, Title 42, and Article 1 of Chapter 2 of Title 49 of the OCGA relating to sexual offenses, procedure for sentencing, and imposition of punishment, the Georgia Crime Information Center, and for other purposes. The House offers the following substitute to Senate Bill 117, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 6 of Title 16, Article 1 of Chapter 10 of Title 17, Article 2 of Chapter 3 of Title 35, Title 42, and Article 1 of Chapter 2 of Title 49 of the OCGA relating to sexual offenses and for other purposes. This completes the order, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes the pro tem to speak to his motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. That GPS tracker in my pocket would work very well. Thank you. As long as you don't share that with my wife. That'd be okay if you did. Ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, I bring to you the substitute for Senate Bill 117. This was the positions of trust individuals who are have inappropriate relationship with children. If there are no questions, I yield the well. Thank you, Mr. President.
Was not used to you being that quick. Any other senator wish to speak for or against the motion? The chair sees none. The senator from the 49th has moved that the Senate agree to the House substitute to Senate Bill 117. All those in favor vote yea, opposed nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. Have all senators voted? Mr. Secretary, please close the machine. On the motion, the yeas are 51, the nays are 0, and the Senate has agreed to the House substitute to Senate Bill 117. Chair recognizes the senator from the 54th for a motion.
Yes, Mr. President, I move that the Senate agree to the House substitute on Senate Bill 220 as amended by the Senate.
Mr. Secretary, please read the caption.
Senate Bill 220 by Senators Payne of the 54th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 2 of Chapter 14 of Title 20 of the OCGA relating to Education Accountability Assessment Program so as to create the Georgia Commission on Civics Education and for other purposes. The House offers the following substitute to Senate Bill 220, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Part 2 of Article 6 of Chapter 2 of Title 20 of the OCGA relating to competencies and core curriculum relative to quality basic education so as to provide for a program of study in financial literacy for students in 10th or 11th grade and for other purposes. Senators Payne of the 54th and others offers the following Amendment 1 to amend the substitute to Senate Bill 220 by inserting after grade on line 4 to amend Article 2 of Chapter 14 of Title 20 of the OCGA relating to Education Accountability Assessment Program so as to create the Georgia Commission on Civics Education and for other purposes. This completes the order, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 54th to speak to his motion. Thank you, Mr. President. Friends, on March 5th, this body passed Senate Bill 220, the Georgia Civics Renewal Act, and with large and bipartisan support with 45 to 4. The House has chosen to replace the bill, the language of the bill, with House Bill 681's language relating to teaching financial literacy in our schools. This agreement, as amended by substitute, is to simply add the language of the Georgia Civics Renewal Act back to our Senate bill. Mr. President, if there are no questions, I will yield the well. You have no questions. Thank you. I ask for your favorable support. Any other senator wish to speak for or against the motion? The chair sees none. Senator from the 54th has moved that the Senate agree to the House amendment to Senate Bill 220 as amended by the Senate. All those in favor vote yea, opposed nay. The Secretary will unlock the machine. Have all senators voted? Have all senators voted? Ms. Secretary, please close the machine. On the passage of the motion, the yeas are 51, the nays are 1. The Senate has agreed to the House amendment to Senate Bill 220 as amended by the Senate. Chair recognizes the Majority Whip for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate agree to the House substitute to SB 165 as amended by the Senate.
Ms. Secretary, can you please read the caption?
Senate Bill 165 by Senators Gooch of the 51st and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 8 of Title 40 of the OCGA relating to equipment and inspection of motor vehicles so as to exempt fully autonomous vehicles from certain vehicle equipment requirements, to provide for compliance, and for other purposes. The House offers the following substitute to Senate Bill 165. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 40-2-151 of the OCGA relating to annual license fees for operation of vehicles so as to reduce the registration fee charged to low-speed alternative fueled vehicles and for other purposes. Senators Gooch of the 51st and others offers the following Amendment 1 to amend Senate Bill 165 by replacing line 5 with the following. Exempt certain autonomous vehicles from certain equipment standards to require the display of a reflective emblem or the use of a strobe light while operating and for other purposes. This completes the order, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes the Majority Whip to speak to his motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, you've seen this bill earlier this year. It's a simple bill dealing with slow-moving vehicles with a strobe light on top. The changes that were made by the House are on lines 18 and 19. They just simply lower the registration fee for those low-speed vehicles from $200 to $100, and then on lines 59 and 60, it changes where they buy their permit for this machine. Instead of going for the Department of Revenue, they'll be able to do it from their local tax office. And the amendment that you see that was presented to us today by the senators from the 32nd and myself deal with the next level of autonomous vehicles. We want to continue to compete with other states and deploy this technology in Georgia, and that's all this does is complies with the federal guidelines and allowing those vehicles to be sold and used here in Georgia. Mr. President, I'm happy to yield for questions or ask for your favorable consideration.
You have no questions. Any other senator wish to speak for or against the motion? The chair sees none. The senator from the 51st has moved that the Senate agree to the House substitute to Senate Bill 165 as amended by the Senate. All those in favor vote yea, opposed nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. Have all senators voted? Ms. Secretary, please close the machine. On the passage of the motion, the yeas are 51, the nays are 0, and the Senate has agreed to the House substitute to Senate Bill 165 as amended by the Senate. Chair recognizes the senator from the 1st for a motion.
Mr. President, I move that the Senate agree to the House substitute to SB 100.
Ms. Secretary, will you please read the caption?
Senate Bill 100 by Senators Watson of the 1st and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 1 of Title 50 of the OCGA relating to general provisions relative to state government so as to provide that this state shall observe standard time year-round until such time as Congress authorizes the state to observe daylight savings time and for other purposes. The House offers the following substitute to Senate Bill 100. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 1 of Title 50 of the OCGA relating to general provisions relative to state government so as to provide that this state shall observe daylight savings time year-round and for other purposes. This completes the order, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 1st to speak to his motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. I promise this will be the last time I talk about this. I'm going to ask for your favorable consideration. This is for Senate Bill 100. The final resolution is for if Congress ever acts, that's a big if, and I'm getting some thumbs up back there. If Congress ever acts, we would go to daylight savings time year-round. I would ask for your favorable consideration. I think we've talked this enough. We've stirred the pot maybe too much, but I'll ask for your favorable consideration. Thank you.
The senator has run out of daylight in the well. Any other senator wish to speak for or against the motion? The chair sees none. Senator from the 1st has moved that the Senate agrees to the House substitute to Senate Bill 100. All those in favor vote yea, opposed nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. Have all senators voted? Mr. Secretary, please close the machine. On the passage of the motion, the yeas are 45, the nays are 6, and the Senate has agreed to the House substitute to Senate Bill 100. Chair recognizes the senator from the 53rd for a motion.
Mr. President, I move that the Senate agree to the House of substitute to Senate Bill 255.
Mr. Secretary, will you please read the caption?
Senate Bill 255 by Senators Mullis of the 53rd and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 34 of Title 50 of the OCGA relating to One Georgia Authority Act so as to provide for a grant program to support border region retail and tourism projects and for other purposes. The House offers the following substitute to Senate Bill 255. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 34 of Title 50 of the OCGA relating to One Georgia Authority Act so as to provide for a grant program to support border region retail and tourism projects and for other purposes. This completes the order, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes the Rules Chairman to present his motion. Take your time. Keep your composure. Maybe a little quicker.
Thank you, Mr. President, for that great advice. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the bill that we've talked about earlier. The House made one little change. This is the border incentive for great cities like Columbus, Augusta, northeast and northwest Georgia, for southeast and southwest Georgia, for those states that are working against us. This helps us to expand our economic development. They're really distracting me. The House did one thing. I had made it 10 miles, and I pulled it out of the air, and they made it 25 miles. It's a great addition. Mr. President, if there are no questions, I yield the way. Yes.
Are you done already?
Yes, are there any questions?
You do.
Oh.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 19th.
He waves.
Literally, he waves. Where are we at? Any other senator wish to speak for or against the motion? The chair sees none. Senator from the 53rd has quickly moved that the Senate agree to the House substitute to Senate Bill 255. All those in favor vote yea, opposed nay. The Secretary will unlock the machine. Have all senators voted? Have all senators voted? Mr. Secretary, please close the machine. On the passage of the motion, the yeas are 50, the nays are 1, and the Senate has agreed to the House substitute to Senate Bill 255. Chair recognizes the senator from the 56th for a motion.
Mr. President, I move that the Senate agree to the House substitute to Senate Bill 85.
Mr. Secretary, please read the caption.
Senate Bill 85 by Senators Albers of the 56th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 16-5-61 of the OCGA relating to hazing so as to provide for an expanded definition of hazing, to provide for inclusion of minors as the subject of hazing, to provide for penalties, to provide for a certain attorney general to bring civil actions against certain organizations regarding hazing incidents, and for other purposes. The House offers the following substitute to Senate Bill 85. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 4 of Chapter 5 of Title 16 of the OCGA relating to reckless conduct so as to provide for an expanded definition of hazing and for other purposes. This completes the order, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 56th to speak to his motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Bill 85, the Max Groover Act, has been unanimously passed from the Senate body 2 times. Our friends in the House did make some pretty substantial changes and did take out what I believe to be some very important components of this bill. However, in an effort to continue the process of keeping our children safe, I'm going to ask you to agree to this bill today. What it simply does is it identifies and defines hazing in more detail and talks about what we call the truth in advertising part of this bill to make sure that the proper communications and transparency is in place. I do want to say to both Steve and Rhiann Groover, the parents of Max, their family, their friends, and all those that participate in their foundation, that this bill is a down payment on the further work we're going to do next year and the years in the future to make sure we honor Max's legacy and we keep our kids safe. With that, Mr. President, I yield for questions.
You have no questions.
I yield the well and ask your favorable consideration.
Any other senator wish to speak for or against the motion? The chair sees none. The senator from the 56th has moved that the Senate agree to the House amendment, House substitute to Senate Bill 85. All those in favor vote yea, opposed nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. Ms. Secretary, please close the machine. On the motion, the yeas are 51, the nays are 0, and the Senate has agreed to the House substitute to Senate Bill 85. Chair recognizes the senator from the 50th for a motion.
Mr. President, I ask that we remove House Bill 306 from the table.
Ms. Secretary, can you please read the caption?
House Bill 306 by Representatives Gunter of the 8th and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Part 1 of Article 7 of Chapter 2 of Title 14 of the OCGA, relating to meetings so as to provide that a corporation may hold annual shareholders' meetings and special shareholders' meetings by means of remote communication and for other purposes. The Senate Committee on Judiciary recommends that this bill do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Strickland of the 17th Chairman. Senate Judiciary offers the following substitute to House Bill 306. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Title 14 of the OCGA relating to corporations, partnerships, and associations so as to provide that a corporation may hold annual shareholders' meetings and special shareholders' meetings by means of remote communication and for other purposes. This completes the order, Mr. President.
Senator from the 50th has moved that House Bill 306 be taken off the table. Is there objection? The chair hears none, and it is removed from the table. The chair recognizes the senator from the 50th to speak to the measure.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise today to bring House Bill 306. This is a similar bill that we passed previously What this bill does is just extends to non-profit corporations and allows them to meet virtually in shareholder meetings. And if there are any questions, I'll take them. If not, I'll yield the well.
You have no questions.
Thank you very much.
You're getting good at this. After 37 bills. Does any other senator wish to speak for or against House Bill 306? The chair sees none. Questions on the adoption of the committee substitute. Is there objection to the adoption of the committee substitute? Chair hears none. The committee substitute is adopted. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? The chair hears none. The main question is ordered. Questions on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor vote yea. Opposed nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. Have all senators voted? Have all senators voted? Ms. Secretary, please close the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 52, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed by substitute. Chair recognizes the senator from the 4th for a motion.
Mr. President, I'd like to lift House Bill 443 from the table.
Ms. Secretary, please read the caption.
House Bill 443 by Representatives Leverett of the 33rd and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 12 of Title 51 of the OCGA relating to damages so as to provide for new requirements regarding the transfer of structured settlement payments rights, to provide for definitions, and for other purposes. The Senate Committee on Judiciary recommends that this bill do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Strickland of the 17th, Chairman. Senate Judiciary offers the following substitute to House Bill 443. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 12 of Title 51 of the OCGA relating to damages so as to provide for new requirements regarding the transfer of structured settlement payment rights and for other purposes. This completes the order, Mr. President.
Senator, you asked for this to be lifted up. Is that in prayer or physically off the table?
Off the table and then prayer talk.
Just want to clarify your motion. Senator from the 4th has asked for House Bill 443 to be lifted up off the table. Is there objection? Chair hears none, and it is so. Chair recognizes the senator from the 4th to speak to the measure.
Mr. President, thank you for allowing me to come up here. I am here to speak on House Bill 443, which is the Georgia Structured Settlement Protection Act. This bill was actually passed 161-2 in the House. House Bill 443 is very important legislation that protects our great Georgia folks who settle claims on a structured basis over time instead of a lump sum. It ensures that if a person needs to convert from payments to a lump sum later, that they will not be taken advantage of by the dishonest person. This bill prevents the dishonest person from taking advantage of the disadvantaged. When we refer to structured settlements, we're talking about third party buying the right to receive payments under a structured settlement agreement, either for the remainder of the payout or for a portion thereof. It is important to note that House Bill 443 does not regulate or restrict the terms of the structured settlement agreement. When the plaintiff settles the case, it regulates the process of selling the structured settlement. Persons who entered into the structured settlements are generally in some sort of dire strait. They have been injured, sometimes catastrophically, and may have lost a loved one or both parents. The need to sell the structured settlement may be unexpected cost of medical care, purchase a new handicapped van, or other worthwhile need. And in some of my research, I found out that you may think that banks rely on this to loan money, but banks will not take structured settlements in consideration on making loans. That's why it's important to be able to enter into a settlement agreement. Every case is different, but the point is that these persons might be vulnerable with someone who proposes to buy the settlement on a cheap basis. Let me give you some example of some disclosures that are in this new House Bill 443. Very important, effective discount rate. Thank you. Structured settlement recipient has a right to cancel the transaction at any time before it goes to court. Structured settlement recipient has a right to seek and receive independent counsel. And approval for application for approval is brought in the county that the recipient lives in. Mr. President, I ask for favorable treatment of House Bill 443, and I yield the will.
You had a question from the chairman of the Trial Lawyer Caucus.
Oh, Lord have mercy.
He waves.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? The chair sees none. Questions on the adoption of the committee substitute. Is there objection to adoption of the committee substitute? The chair hears none. The committee substitute is adopted. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? Chair hears none. The main question is ordered. Question on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor vote yea. Opposed nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. For what purpose does the pro tem rise?
Parliamentary inquiry, Mr.
State
President.
that inquiry.
We'd like for the gentleman from the 4th to repeat lines 17 and 18, if you wouldn't mind.
On page 1 or 17?
Page 17.
He waves. For what purpose does the distinguished senator from the 19th rise?
Parliamentary inquiry, Mr. President.
State the inquiry, sir.
Mr. President, is it not true that this is a bill in case you have a structured settlement and need cash now?
All the chair knows is that when you heard the word settlement, you pushed your button. Any other parliamentary inquiries? Chair recognizes the pro tem for a follow-up.
He can always use that structured settlement for a down payment.
Mr. Secretary, please close the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 51, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed by substitute. Chair recognizes the senator from the 17th for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that House Bill 562 be taken off the table.
Mr. Secretary, can you please read the caption?
House Bill 562 by Representatives Carpenter of the 4th and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 3 of Chapter 4 of Title 17 of the OCJ relating to warrants for arrest so as to add DFCS case manager to the people for whom arrest warrants may be issued only by certain judicial officers and for other purposes. The Senate Committee on Judiciary recommends that this bill do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Strickland of the 17th, Chairman. Senate Judiciary offers the following substitute to House Bill 562. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Title 17 of the OCJ relating to criminal procedure so as to add DFCS case manager to the people for whom arrest warrants may be issued only by certain judicial officers and for other purposes. This completes the order, Mr. President.
Senator from the 17th has moved for House Bill 562 to be taken off the table. Is there objection? Chair hears none, and it is removed from the table. The chair recognizes the senator from the 17th to present the measure.
Thank you, Mr. President. House Bill 562 came from the House with just Section 1, which adds DFACS case managers to the list of folks where you have to get a warrant from from a probate court judge, state court, or superior court judge for an arrest committed while in their official capacity. Gives them the same protections we have now for other folks like teachers and police officers under the law. Judiciary Committee added Section 2 to the bill. That's the same title, but a little different issue. Section 2 allows for the state in a criminal case to file a motion just like the defense can now under current law, the same process the defense has under current law, to change the venue when you have a case where there's been a previous recusal, disqualification, or removal of a prosecutor, or a local official has released information which is tainted the jury pool. Again, trying to make sure we have parity in the law with the defense and state with the ability to file a motion in those kind of cases, which the Constitution allows us to do. Happy to answer any questions.
You have no questions.
Ask for favorable consideration.
Any other senator wish to speak for or against House Bill 562? The chair sees none. The question is on the adoption of the committee substitute. Is there objection or adoption of the committee substitute? The chair hears none, and the committee substitute is adopted. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? The chair hears none, the main question is ordered. Questions on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor vote yea. Opposed, nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. Have all senators voted? Have all senators voted? Always clear. Mr. Secretary, please close the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 50, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed by substitute. Mr. Secretary, can you please read the caption or committee reports that just came?
Mr. President, the Senate Committee on State and Local Governmental Operations has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation. House Bill 750, do pass. House Bill 762, do pass. House Bill 749, do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Anderson of the 24th Chairman. This completes the order, Mr. President.
Thank you. All right, we're going to take a 30-minute break for lunch. Lunch is here, but before we do, I want to take a moment to thank Stacey Perry for her commitment to helping serve this body here and all the work that she's done. Thank you so much for what you do. Thank you. With that, we will stand at ease until 1 o'clock. Stand at ease until 1 o'clock.